Hey everybody, welcome back to another Jackson jet setting cruise video. Today I'm doing a tips and tricks video on the Carnival Glory. She's sailing on shorter itineraries out of Port Canaveral down to the Bahamas. She is a Conquest class ship, which I've had several different cruises on across the Carnival fleet. I was very familiar with her design, but I wasn't familiar with her theming or the crew or actually this itinerary in general because I haven't been to Bimini in quite a while. So I was excited to hop on board. So hopefully these tips and tricks can help you plan your trip on the Carnival Glory. Just so you know, we have tons of different cruise videos on both the Carnival Glory as well as other cruises out there in the Caribbean leaving from Florida on the channel. You can subscribe to the channel and check out all of those videos. And if you're looking for help in planning your cruise on the Carnival Glory or any cruise out there for that matter, you can reach out to Mark Jackson at jacksonjetsetting.com for a free quote. Now, my first tip for pretty much every cruise is going to be arrive to the port the night before. Even if you're driving into port from a different city, I do recommend staying the night before in Orlando. There are lots and lots of fun hotels. You can build in a longer trip with some of the theme parks in the area. I certainly have on my various cruises. I stayed the night before at the Renaissance SeaWorld. You can check out that video on the channel. A lot of fun there at SeaWorld with all their great roller coasters. But if you're flying in, there's just things that happen with the flights, and you don't want to get stuck on shore as your beautiful cruise is leaving port. So I would recommend staying the night before in the Orlando area. If you are flying in, there are plenty of shuttle options from the Orlando area, including from the airport. It's about a 45-minute trip or so, depending on traffic. There's also Uber and Lyft, which I've used before, and it's actually not a bad deal. But if you do have a rental car or if you're driving in, there's parking directly at the port. That price can vary, so be sure to check the terminal website before your cruise just to see how much exactly your cruise parking is going to cost. Now, since this is a Carnival cruise, I do recommend trying to book some activities before your cruise, not only because it's nice to plan out your vacation in advance and make sure nothing sells out, but also Carnival offers several discounts before your cruise. One big one that I see on several of my cruises is a internet package and shore excursion 10% discount. So if you book both of those at the same time online before your cruise, you get a nice little discount off of your internet package. So if you're going to buy both anyway, you might as well pre-plan and save a little bit of money. Now, a few weeks before your cruise, you're going to be able to select a boarding time on board. You're going to check in. You're going to give your passport or boarding information. You don't need a passport to sail. You need a state ID and birth certificate or a passport. But once you do that, you'll get an arrival time at the port, and that's the time that you will be able to start your boarding process to get on board the Carnival Glory. I do recommend printing out your boarding information, your boarding pass, from Carnival. Carnival's one of those cruise lines that's still stuck in the past and requires people to actually print out on a piece of paper that boarding information. Now, I have forgotten to do so in the past, and there's always a nice person at the port that can print out on a basically receipt-style paper your boarding pass barcode that they'll use in the boarding process as well as on board before you get that stateroom and your stateroom key. That stateroom key is called a set sail card on board Carnival, and that will be used for everything purchased on board. It'll be used for getting on and off the ship, as well as your stateroom key. In terms of cabin selection, it's not a gigantic ship, so I actually find this ship to be really easy to move around. I was on one of the upper decks on this voyage, but in an inside cabin. Inside cabins are definitely hit or miss for people. I love them because it's the cheapest way to get on board, but I can understand other people that really do need that window or balcony to see out, especially if you're only cruising once every few years or maybe once a year. You're going to want that good view, so I can definitely understand that. For me, just wanting to get on board, the inside cabin worked perfectly, and it was a shorter voyage. The Carnival Glory offers many different types of cabins, so inside there's ocean view with just a window, veranda cabins with a balcony, as well as suites. In terms of dining on board, there's a lot of Carnival classics that I've noticed. Pretty much run-of-the-mill in terms of differences between the different Conquest class ships that I've been on. There's, of course, Guy's Burger Joint, which is going to be open for the lunchtime hours into early evening, as well as Blue Iguana Cantina. These are your poolside restaurants. They're completely complimentary, and they're absolutely delicious. I love both of them. Guy's Burgers is one of the best burgers at sea, in my opinion, and Blue Iguana has really great fresh-made tortillas that really enhances the delicious taco ingredients. I always go for the tacos. They also have a burrito bar sometimes has a longer line, I think just because it takes a little bit longer to make those. But I always go for those on Embarkation Day. There is a full buffet located right behind those restaurants as well, with a lot more variety. It just gets really jam-packed on Embarkation Day, so I do recommend getting there either early or waiting until the staterooms open to eat your lunch, and that'll start clearing out. Main dining room food is really good on Carnival. I've always loved the Embarkation Day short rib. It's one of my favorite dishes at sea. So I always make my way to the main dining room for that. But the menus are going to change each night. They're really, really delicious. I do recommend trying them. You can order multiple entrees, so that's one nice tip for people. It's not like a traditional restaurant. Everything is included, and the waitstaff are there to make sure that you have an awesome vacation. So if you don't like something, you can send it back and try something new. That main dining room is going to be open for breakfast each morning as well. You're going to be able to select a table within the app as soon as the breakfast opens. So make sure that you have the app downloaded on your phone for your voyage. It's going to allow you to see a lot of different activities going on during the ship. They'll send you notifications and things like that. So it's really helpful to have that on board already downloaded. There's a sea day brunch in the main dining room as well that I don't recommend you skip because it is really, really good. There's really good chicken and waffles. There's a brunch burger that's very good. So don't miss out on that. I feel like a lot of people actually don't realize that that is a thing. And then there are some specialty dining options on board. The main one is the steakhouse. So the steakhouse is going to have the same menu as many of the other steakhouses across the Carnival fleet. Really love going here, though. It's a very delicious meal. Higher end steaks than what you will find in the main dining room for sure, and really good service. So definitely recommend checking that out. There's also a few different to-go specialty dining options like bonsai sushi, as well as the seafood shack. So that's going to get a little bit better food for an extra charge. In terms of activities on board, there are a ton of activities to do on the Carnival Glory. There is the casino, there's bingo, there's deal or no deal, there's tons of game shows both in the main theater and some of the different lounges across the ship. The day is really chock full of experiences for you, so don't miss out. There's really not a ton that you have to pre-plan on board. Just some of those dining options, maybe for your preferred dining time. I would recommend booking that before your cruise. For the ship itself, very easy to maneuver around the ship, as I mentioned. It has a lot of decks. All the public decks are able to move from forward to aft really easily. Some ships that I've been on, like the Disney Wish, there's lots of dead ends and it can get kind of frustrating trying to get to where you're going. Not so in the Carnival Glory. I really liked the movement on this ship. The Conquest class ships are all very similar in that regard, so really great. I loved the theming on board as well. It was pretty subdued and I felt very fresh, especially around the casino. I felt like the casino was definitely one of their newer designs. So I definitely noticed that on board. Some of the other Carnival ships can sometimes be a little rugged, shall we say. So it was great to be on board here. If you're cruising in 2025 or 2026, you should have a pretty fresh feeling ship. In terms of itinerary, my cruise only went to Bimini in the Bahamas, which is one of my favorite Bahamian islands because it's very laid back. There's not a ton to do on the island itself. I did a fun excursion over to the beach club that you can check out a full review of on the channel. But there are other activities like snorkeling that we've done in the past, as well as shipwreck snorkeling, swimming with the sharks. Very, very fun activities here. Your cruise may actually stop in Nassau in the Bahamas. I have a ton of videos of things to do in Nassau on the channel as well, and I will link those down below. But overall, Bahamas are a really great getaway for people in Florida or people traveling through Florida. It's a very fun time. Weather usually great year-round, and really just a lot of fun. For excursions, you can always book through Carnival and compare the price to booking off the ship. The one benefit of booking through Carnival is that if your excursion is delayed for some reason, maybe the ship that you're snorkeling on breaks down or something like that, the ship will actually wait for you. Very rare that this ever happens, but it does happen on occasion. So that's a nice little peace of mind that people love for booking excursions directly through the ship. If you are trying to save money, I would recommend at least exploring different options on sites like Viator that will be able to book local excursions for you in places, especially like the Nassau stop, that it's going to have a lot of different options. So just check that out and see if any options work for you and your family. Okay, that should do it for my tips and tricks on board the Carnival Glory. What other tips do you have? Let me know in the comments, and thanks a lot for watching.